The patrol vehicle returned before dawn. Parked in its assigned space, engine cold, no personnel. Inside was a portable radio, set to the correct frequency, handset clipped in place, battery still charged. This occurred along the eastern crest of the Sierra Nevada, within a Forest Service patrol zone above 8,000 feet. The ignition key was missing. The vehicle had completed its route. Fuel and mileage matched the log. There was no record of a return. 2 rangers had signed out. No one signed back in. The file remains unresolved. The eastern crest of the Sierra Nevada runs narrow and steep between Owens Valley and the high basins. Elevation here changes faster than most terrain in the lower range. Access is limited to a handful of service roads, most of them cut before 1960 and maintained only seasonally. Winter closures run November through late April in most years. Snow lingers in the higher draws well into June. The district operates with minimal staffing even during peak season. This particular zone is mapped under Forest Service jurisdiction, but certain sections were transferred from earlier Bureau oversight in 1957. Boundary lines were redrawn twice in the following decade. Some of the older trail markers still reference coordinates no longer used. The area sits at roughly 8,200 feet, though portions of the administrative block extend above 9,000. Temperatures during clear autumn nights can drop below freezing even when daytime conditions remain mild. Visibility is generally good, except during late-season dust events carried east from the valley floor. There are no permanent structures within the patrol zone. The nearest staff station lies 14 miles south by road. Cell coverage did not exist in this region during the period in question. Radio relay was available, but inconsistent above certain ridgelines. In late September of 1978, 2 rangers signed out for a scheduled night patrol. The log indicates departure at 1840 hours. Weather was listed as clear, winds light from the west. The route assignment covered 11 miles of fire road and 2 spur trails leading into adjacent drainages. Estimated return was set for 0530 the following morning. Both rangers had worked the district for multiple seasons. Neither was new to night operations. A standard patrol kit was loaded. Water, first aid, hand tools, spare batteries, 1 portable radio unit. The vehicle was a white Ford Bronco assigned to the northern sector. Fuel level was noted as 3/4 full. The first radio check occurred at 20:15 hours. Base, this is Unit 7, proceeding north past the junction. Road condition normal, no traffic observed. Copy, Unit 7. Conditions? Clear, temp dropping, wind negligible. Understood. Next check at 22-week scorer. Transmission ended without issue. The second check came through at 22.03 hours. Base, Unit 7. Approaching mile 8. Everything routine. Acknowledged. We're going to sweep the upper spur before turnaround. Should add maybe 40 minutes. Copy that. Check in when you're back on the main road. Will do. No further transmission was received. The vehicle returned to the station at 0610 hours the following morning. It was parked in the standard position, aligned with the lot markers. Engine off, doors closed but not locked. Keys were not in the ignition. The fuel gauge read just under half. Odometer mileage matched the expected patrol range within a few tenths of a mile. No damage was visible to the exterior. Tires were intact. Headlights were off. Inside, the radio unit was switched to the correct frequency. The handset was clipped in place. No static, no residual transmission. Water containers remained sealed. First aid kit unopened. Hand tools in their mounts. Spare batteries accounted for. 2 clipboards lay on the front seat. Both held standard patrol sheets with sections partially filled in. Handwriting was consistent with prior documentation from both rangers. The last entry on the Northern Rangers sheet was timed at 21:50. It noted visibility as excellent and remarked on minimal dust in the air compared to the previous week. The Southern Rangers sheet carried a final notation at 22:0. A single line read, "Spur access clear, no debris." No annotations appeared after those times. A search began within 2 hours of the vehicle's return. Initial efforts concentrated on the upper spur trail and the surrounding drainage. Visibility was strong, conditions remained stable. No footprints were identified beyond the maintained surface of the road. Ground was dry and offered limited tracking capability in most areas. Air support was requested by midday. A spotter aircraft flew the corridor twice, focusing on slopes and ridge access points. No signals were detected. No visible anomalies were reported from altitude. Ground teams expanded the perimeter over the next 72 hours. Additional personnel were brought in from adjacent districts. Search dogs were deployed on the third day. No clothing, no equipment, no disturbance. The spur trail showed no evidence of recent passage beyond what might be expected from routine maintenance activity earlier in the season. No branches broken, no scuff marks on exposed stone. Weather remained favorable throughout the operation. By the fifth day, coverage had extended to drainage systems nearly 3 miles from the last confirmed radio position. Terrain became increasingly difficult. Certain sections required technical approach. Nothing was located. The vehicle was examined a second time under controlled conditions at the district garage. Mechanical function was tested. Brake response normal. Steering alignment within tolerance. Transmission fluid levels appropriate. No concealed damage. No indication of off-road stress beyond what the assigned route would produce. Seat positioning matched the driver's usual configurations based on prior observation. Mirrors had not been adjusted. The interior held no foreign objects, no notes, no personal items that had not been accounted for in the original inventory. Fuel analysis showed standard composition. No contamination. The odometer reading, when cross-referenced with the last recorded mileage before departure, suggested the vehicle had traveled the patrol route as planned and returned without significant deviation. Interviews were conducted with all personnel who had worked shifts during the relevant time frame. No one reported visual or auditory contact with the Rangers after their departure. No secondary vehicles had been dispatched to the area that night. Radio logs were reviewed in full. Only the 2 confirmed transmissions appeared. No missed calls, no interference patterns. One technician noted that relay performance in the upper drainage had been inconsistent during the prior month, but stated that transmissions from the main road typically came through without issue. The logs showed no other patrol activity within 12 miles of the assigned route that evening. Weather station data confirmed conditions as reported. Clear skies, light wind, temperatures consistent with seasonal norms. No seismic activity. No reported aircraft in the vicinity. No fire starts. Formal search operations were suspended after 9 days. The case remained open but was classified as unresolved. No explanatory evidence was entered into the administrative file. Beyond the observed facts, departure documented, vehicle returned, personnel absent. The district continued normal operations. The route remained in service. No additional incidents of a similar nature were recorded in subsequent seasons. The administrative review was conducted 6 weeks after suspension of search operations. District supervisors compiled incident documentation from multiple sources: shift logs, equipment inventories, fuel records, radio transcripts, search team reports. Cross-referencing showed no procedural deviations prior to departure. The patrol had been authorized through standard channels. Vehicle assignment followed rotation protocol. Equipment loadout matched district guidelines for night operations in remote zones. Personnel files for both Rangers showed clean service records. No disciplinary notes, no prior incidents involving failure to report or protocol deviation. Medical evaluations from the previous season showed both individuals in adequate physical condition for extended backcountry duty. One Ranger had logged over 400 patrol hours in the district across 4 seasons. The other had completed approximately 900 hours over 3 years. A secondary examination of the patrol, route was authorized in mid-October. Daylight conditions, minimal wind, temperature stable in the low 50s. The team retraced the assigned corridor from departure point to the upper spur terminus. Total distance covered matched the original route specification. Road surface showed wear consistent with seasonal vehicle traffic, but no unusual markings. Drainage culverts were clear, no structural failures in roadbed integrity. The spur trail ascended through mixed pine and juniper. Slope gradient averaged 12% over the first half-mile, increasing to 18% near the upper terminus. Trail width varied from 8 to 12 feet. Surface composition: decomposed granite with embedded stone, minimal erosion channels. Visibility along the trail remained unobstructed for distances ranging from 60 to 200 feet, depending on terrain curvature and vegetation density. At the upper terminus, the trail ended at a natural bench approximately 40 feet wide. Elevation: 8,680 feet. The bench overlooked a shallow drainage running northeast into higher country. No evidence of recent human presence was identified at the terminus. No fire rings, no litter, no footprints in areas where substrate might have retained impressions. The examining team noted that ambient sound in the area was minimal. Wind movement through the canopy produced intermittent low-frequency noise, but overall conditions were described as quiet. One observer remarked that stars were clearly visible overhead even during the daytime examination, given the altitude and atmospheric clarity. Terrain analysis suggested several factors relevant to search difficulty. The drainage below the spur terminus descended steeply into a series of narrow channels. Vegetation became denser at lower elevations, transitioning into thicker manzanita and scrub oak. Ground cover in these sections would obscure visual detection from both air and ground perspective. Thermal imaging had not been available during the initial search window. Certain sections of the drainage contained talus fields where footing would be unstable. Movement through such areas at night would carry elevated risk, though both rangers were experienced in variable terrain. Water flow in the drainage was seasonal and minimal during late September. No standing pools, no significant moisture retention. If individuals had descended into the drainage, retrieval of remains or equipment could be delayed by months or longer, depending on access limitations and subsequent environmental conditions. However, no clear rationale existed for why experienced personnel would leave the maintained trail without radio notification, particularly given the explicit communication regarding their intention to sweep the spur and return. Radio transmission behavior was analyzed separately. The portable unit carried by the patrol was a standard-issue VHF model with effective range of approximately 8 miles. Under optimal line-of-sight conditions, range degraded significantly in mountainous terrain due to obstruction and signal bounce. The upper spur fell within theoretical coverage from the relay station, though performance was acknowledged to be inconsistent. A field test conducted 3 weeks after the incident demonstrated that transmissions from the spur terminus were receivable at base approximately 60% of the time. Signal strength varied with atmospheric conditions and precise positioning of the transmitting unit. It remained unclear why no distress call was issued if the rangers encountered difficulty. Standard protocol required immediate notification of any deviation from planned activity or any condition affecting personnel safety. Battery charge on the recovered radio unit was sufficient for multiple additional transmissions. Human factors were considered. Fatigue, though possible, seemed inconsistent with the timeline. The patrol had been underway for less than 4 hours at the time of the last transmission. Both rangers had rested prior to departure. Medical emergency affecting both individuals simultaneously would be statistically unusual but not impossible. Acute environmental exposure, while rare given the mild conditions, could not be excluded. Voluntary departure from duty was discussed and dismissed based on personnel history and lack of any indicators suggesting intent to abandon assignment. Navigation error seemed improbable given familiarity with the route and the clear conditions reported. The possibility of third-party involvement was examined. No other individuals were known to be in the area. No vehicles were logged on access roads. No reports of trespass or unusual activity had been filed in the weeks preceding or following the incident. One detail resisted straightforward interpretation. The vehicle had returned under its own power. Ignition required a key. The key was not in the vehicle and was not located during the search. If the rangers had returned to the vehicle and then departed on foot, the key would likely have been left in the ignition or placed in a standard storage location. Neither was the case. If the vehicle had been driven back by the Rangers and then abandoned, some evidence of their subsequent movement should have been detectable within the immediate vicinity of the station. None was found. If a third party had returned the vehicle, acquisition of the key would require either direct interaction with the Rangers or access to the vehicle while it was unattended. No scenario consistent with the radio logs and patrol timelines supported this. The odometer reading indicated the vehicle had traveled the expected distance. Fuel consumption was proportional. Mechanical wear was consistent. The vehicle had completed the route and returned to its designated location, parked with care, engine off, equipment intact. But the individuals who signed it out were not present to complete the return log entry. The patrol clipboards were retained as part of the case file. Handwriting analysis confirmed that the entries were consistent with known samples from both Rangers. Ink composition matched standard issue pens distributed to field personnel. The final notations, timed at 21:50 and 22 SAR, were written in steady script. No signs of haste, no smudging, no incomplete letter forms. The Southern Rangers' last line, "Spur access clear, no debris," reflected routine observational practice. Nothing in the phrasing suggested distress or irregularity. The absence of any subsequent entry did not, in itself, indicate crisis. Field documentation was often completed intermittently, with final sections filled in upon return. But the vehicle had returned, and the clipboards lay undisturbed on the seat. In November of 1978, the case was transferred to inactive status. No explanation was entered into the final report beyond a recitation of known facts. Departure confirmed. Last radio contact at 22:03 hours. Vehicle returned at 06:10 hours. Personnel unaccounted for. The district issued an internal memo recommending enhanced radio check intervals for night patrols in remote zones. No other operational changes were mandated. The route remained open. The spur trail continued to appear on district maps. Seasonal closures resumed in mid-November as snowfall increased at higher elevations. The administrative file was placed in storage at the regional office. Requests for access required supervisor clearance. No additional documentation was added in subsequent years, but the archive remains open. If you're drawn to records that end without resolution, consider following for more from the archives.